I'm Greg DePalma, and you're listening to Prime Sports Tennis with Andrea Leanne on the Prime Sports Radio Network. On today's show, we're going to make our predictions for the 2018 season, including Player of the Year, Breakthrough Player of the Year, and much more. The 2018 season is less than 2 weeks away, and we'll do our best to get you ready as Prime Sports Tennis on Prime Sports Network starts now. All right, it's Tuesday, the 19th of December, 2017. Thanks again for tuning in to Prime Sports Tennis with PSN Tennis editor and former top 15 player in the world, Andrea Leanne. So, Andrea, we finally had a week off. We're back. We're going to have a very busy 2018. It's going to be our best ever, and this is the show to kick it all off as we preview the season, and it should be a lot of fun.
Well, the headlines pouring in, Greg. Is she or isn't she Serena Williams? Will she play the Australian Open? Will she pull out of the event? Of course, she has her visa. She's entered the tournament. She's been tweeting out pictures of the practice courts and insinuating that she has been training, trying to get ready for this. But also she is now, as we learned today, been publicized as a keynote speaker at a seminar in Florida on January 23rd. And that is during the quarterfinals of the Australian Open women's event. So she cannot be in two places at once. I cannot imagine that she is going to enter an event and have a dual commitment for those 2 weeks. I think it's 2 feet in all the time with Serena. And that, I think, is the problem right now. She's not 2 feet in. She's being tugged at all different ends. Of course, little Olympia's teething. She's up at night with her baby, her adorable little baby. Husband, Alexis, is helping. She's got a great team around her. New hitting partner in Jameer Jenkins, a UVA star. So she has been putting the pieces together, Greg, but right now that's the big question, that's the big headline, and that's what all the attention is going into 2018. And we have a lot of other stars. As you just said, the headlines have been pouring in.
Yeah, there's a lot of really good players that are ready to break through and compete with Serena on the women's tour. You got all those men that had disappointing seasons on the men's tour trying to come back, all the up-and-comers. So it should be a lot of fun. We've got 10 predictions for each tour that we're going to make here over the next 25 minutes or so. So let's start with the obvious one, the biggest one of all. It's a two-parter. It's about Player of the Year. We're going to start off, first of all, with which player do you think has the best chance to win Player of the Year for the first time? So this is the first time Player of the Year. I have my two winners. So go ahead, give me yours. So give me your, I'm sure you got a list. So
well, when you're talking about first time, you're really talking about players that have to come up with their first Grand Slam victory. They got to get up into those rankings.
That's true.
We've seen Zverev, Dimitrov, and team get into the top 5 in the rankings. We know they can do it. Dimitrov won the ATP final in London.
Yep.
Zverev has been right there with the top players. He's beaten just about everyone. He's beaten Rafa. He's beaten Roger. And so he knows how to do it. The question is, can they win the Grand Slam? Can they go the whole 2 weeks, those 3 out of 5 set battles, one day after day? And I'm not so sure about that now. That's what they've been charged to try and take care of during the off season. Zverev has been in Monte Carlo. He's trained a little bit with Novak Djokovic, and Stan is there. Berdych is there. Dimitrov is there. Everyone's in Monte Carlo, by the way, training with the guys. And it's quite a contingency over there. And I think that Zverev, though, is ready. He is primed. And if we have to look at a first-time Player of the Year and someone who's going to have that type of breakthrough and win a big one, I think we're looking at Sasha Zverev in the men.
All right, so you're going to go with Sasha. And you know what? I'm going to go with Dimitrov. I really think that the win was hopefully for him and his team is exactly what he needs to break through for his first Grand Slam, as well as, of course, winning the Player of the Year for the first time. So I'll go with Dimitrov on the men's side, and on the women's side, she has just been slowly for the last few years inching up, a couple of spots each time. And I think that maybe this is also, like Dimitrov, going to be a year where maybe she not only wins a Grand Slam for the first time, but wins Player of the Year for the first time, and that's Carolina Pliskova.
I think Pliskova definitely is a good bet. You know, she had an off year this year. She plateaued. She had some injuries. She had an arm injury going into the finals in the WTA final in Singapore. And I think that she's had to regroup. She had a split with the coach, wasn't on the same page with him, has a new guy on board, Thomas Krupa, and really feels her confidence has come back. And that's what it amounts to for Karolina, is the confidence. We know she has a great serve. She's a great thinker out there. She knows how to open up the court with the angles and the big shots. And now it's a question of the fitness. Does she have that fitness? Can she keep her body healthy? Because I think the body and that, especially that right arm, really left her in the middle of the year. She did not have the serves, the aces that she had the previous year when she took the big jump. And she's going to need that serve. She needs that first delivery to really take control of the points, play the first strike tennis, and command the action. And that is where she also gets her confidence. I think the coach is important. I think the team is important. The fitness is going to be important to Karolina. I think she has more to do in composing her team. She likes to keep it simple. She went with Dad when she split with David Kativa earlier. She went with Dad to Beijing, went to Asia. And so she really has a very tight-knit family group. Christina, of course, her twin sisters on the tour. Mm-hmm. But I agree, Greg. I think she is really due. Okay. I think she's made the corrections in the off-season. We haven't heard a lot about her. She's very quiet. She keeps everything close to the vest. And I like that about her because she really speaks with her racket. She does. It's words that don't mean anything. It's what happens on court. And to me, that's what's most important. So I agree. I think she will be perhaps the first-time player of the year and a first-time Grand Slam winner.
All right. And now, again, the two-parter. So this one is who actually wins player of the year. So we'll tell you what. We'll start with the women because I'm going to go ahead and say Pliskova wins it. So I'm going to say yes. Not only do I think she has the best chance to win it for the first time, but she will win it this year.
Well, the two obviously that are right there with her, Halep and Muguruza, there's no question about. Muguruza is the one who's won the Grand Slam. She's won Wimbledon. She's won the French Open. I think she has the worst team, though, of any one of the top players, men or women. She has had a trouble with the issues of putting the team together, but she is one of the most disciplined players. And she's a high-strung girl. She likes to do things her way. There's no accident that she has not put together a comprehensive team. She likes to control the show. She likes to make her own decisions. She's been in L.A. with her brother. We saw a great picture of them in the wetsuit on the beach. She's trying to learn how to relax, how to keep her emotions in check on court and not let them rule the roost. Because, when she gets angry, when she gets upset, she doesn't always know how to channel the emotions in a positive way, as we've seen this year. And obviously she was able to bring in Conchita Martinez, who had a real balance both on and off court and was able to give her the tactics, the substance that Muguruza had to have a focus on court, Greg.
Yep.
And that is what's important for Muguruza. She must have tactics when she goes on court. You cannot just give her gestures of move in or come on or cheerleading. She needs actual strategy because when she can focus on how to play, the emotions become a mute issue, and the emotions have no place in the picture because she is focused, she's thinking, and she is really very, very intense on court in the strategy. And that's how she won Wimbledon, and I think that's how she, as you said, perhaps could be the player of the year. Of course, the ITF, Greg, made her player of the year this year. Even though she had some very lackluster results, plateaued in the middle, as far as the Sunshine Double, did not play well. About half her results really did not give a full effort when she went out on court, but was able to shine on some big occasions. But the ITF said, hey, that's enough. You won Wimbledon. We're going to give you player of the year, not Halep, who actually did end the year at number one. And, Greg, this is a player who I think also could do it. I think she will win her first Grand Slam next year. She will win the French Open. She's got the monkey off her back, and I think that she understands what it takes now, what she needs to do.
All right. Well, actually, Simona Halep was asked about her thinking process not too long ago about what it would take for her to become the number one player in the world.
Yeah.
After the Italian Open, because I know that was the big tournament.
Yeah,
right?
It was the biggest at that moment and the first one that I played good tennis. Actually, I started to believe in myself that I can manage everything alone on court because all the players, I think, are a little bit addicted to the coach because you always are waiting for advices, where to hit, where to play. And I started to think more about myself, what I should do in that moment on court. So I tried to build everything around me, inside me, and I had, I think, the power inside very big at that moment, and the desire. I think if you have desire, if you have confidence in yourself, if you believe that you are not lower than the others, you can beat good players.
And Woody, now again, there's a player that has to break through and win a Grand Slam for the first time, and then also her chances of winning Player of the Year for the first time. So, do you think she has it?
The biggest message, though, what she just said, Greg, is the biggest message for all the players. You have to find the answers within yourself. You can't keep relying on other people to give you the solutions.
Yeah.
And in this quote, Halep says, I learned I have to find the answers within myself. I have to learn to think for myself on court. And, trust her instincts, trust what feels good to her, and figure it out on court. And this is where the maturity comes in. And we see this with Zverev. We see this with Novak Djokovic, trying to rely on everyone else, all the external cues. And he finally realized in the last year and a half he's got to reset. He's got to go and find the answers within himself and do the actual work. So, yes, I think that Halep has said it right there. I think that we've seen lots of pictures in the last 2 weeks of Instagram and Twitter and parties and awards, and she has been praised throughout the country. She's one of its biggest heroes. Just last night she had another party. Jan Tiriac, Elena Stasi, her entire team, her family, her friends, everyone was there, again, saluting what an incredible year she has had to end it at the year number one. But I think for her to repeat all this and even, as you say, get this first Grand Slam, she is going to, again, have to rely on herself and do the style that really helps her win. And when she went to Beijing, she knew what she needed to do. And when she wanted to grab that number one, she went ahead and did it. And so I have a lot of confidence in Simona. I think there's a lot of lip service out there. I think you have to really look at her actions. Her actions speak louder than anything.
All right. Well, because look, the thing that we talked about with that number one ranking is that it's nice to become the number one player in the world, but it was one of those. It's one of those awards that really you think about it and you're like, yeah, but there's an empty feeling there because she hasn't broke through yet to win the Grand Slam. And that's, as a former player, that has to be, driving her.
Well, I've actually never won a Grand Slam, but I will tell you, I think Halep will win the French Open. I think she will be the favorite, and barring any unforeseen injury or something happening, I think that she will win the French Open. I think she understands how to channel her emotions again in a positive way, very similar to Muguruza in some respects in that way, and how to really work through things on court, adjust, find solutions, keep positive, keep working. And both of them, I think, have learned those lessons this year. And it's very similar. So I think, yes, I think we're going to see those three girls, Muguruza, Halep, Pliskova, really vying for that spot. Because, as we said, we don't know what Serena's going to do. We don't know what she's going to play. Vika, of course, is still in this custody battle. She has gotten a wild card into the Australian Open, but that is going to take a major adjustment in her being able to play any kind of semblance of a schedule with this ongoing issue with her baby son Leo and the father. And Maria Sharapova, who we all been focused on this year, quite frankly, who really commanded the attention for the first 6 months, is ranked number 59 in the world right now. So where is she going to factor into the picture? Is she going to improve the tennis? Is she going to get better? Or over 30 years of age, have her best days been behind her now? So we're going to have to see, because we have a lot of the former superstars out there vying for their last title, and then this new guard coming up.
And other players on the women's side that I would look at to win possibly their first Grand Slam this year, I'm going to go. Madison Keys is an obvious choice. I think you got to put Coco in there. Now, I don't know if she'll do it.
I know Coco's your favorite. Keys is my outside choice to win a Grand Slam, to break. She's already been in the top 10. I think she could break into the top 5, quite frankly. It all comes down to that wrist injury and really Madison's fitness. Now, she's been at the USTA Center in Orlando. She's been training there. She's been surrounded by a lot of the Americans. They've been feeding off each other's work ethic, and I think that's been great for Madison. I think it's terrific that she's around a lot of other players. It's a right dynamic. It's a right environment. It's a very positive environment. Kathy Rinaldi, the Fed Cup captain, is there. Lindsay Davenport is coaching, and she has a great team. Madison Keys has
Yep.
one of the best teams of any top player. So I agree. She's got all the pieces in place. She's got everything well organized. And now it's just a question of, has she done the rehab on the wrist? She said, hey, I didn't do the rehab during the year because I had so many commitments, so many tournaments, so much pressure to play. And so she took off the fall basically and hopefully has rehabbed this wrist. I'm told it's 100%. I'm told she's ready to go. And I'm hoping that's the case because I think if Madison is 100% and doesn't have those excuses in her back pocket mentally, that when she can go out on the court and know she can give 100%, I agree. I think she's one of the most dangerous players in the women's game.
And of course, with Coco coming off the Fed Cup win and then playing so well last year in the Australian Open, this is a great opportunity for her, confidence-wise, to get off to a really good start. And maybe if she has a chance to win and go deep again in a Grand Slam this season, maybe it happens in Australia. And I'm going to throw in Caroline Garcia as well for a player to win.
Well, I think both French girls, Kiki Milanovic, Caroline Garcia, Coco Vandeweghe as well, and Sloane Stephens, all have done well now in the Grand Slams. They've all shown, of course, Sloane winning the U.S. Open, they've all shown that they have the game, they have the mental and the physical. They can get there. They can do it. I still look for them to really consolidate their rankings in the top 10, have a consistent year. We have to remember, Sloane really did not play a full year, had that great segment in the summer, and then, of course, did not do much in the fall. So we're going to have to see if she can come back and show a consistency. Same with Kiki Milanovic, did nothing in the last 6 months, great first 6 months. Can she regain that? And again, Caroline Garcia, it's been really incremental improvement in her game. I think that she has great ability. She's learned a lot, mentally matured. And Coco, of course, the flash that you love, the flair. We saw it in Fed Cup. She was the leader. She likes to be the leader. And the question is, does she also have the maturity to go the distance in a Grand Slam and climb to that top 5? But those 4 girls, I think, are, again, the real contenders that we'll see now in the second week.
All right. And then as far as the men are concerned, between a couple things, first, player of the year, and then winning Grand Slam for the first time. I tell you what, I'm going to go ahead and say player of the year this year on the men's side is going to be Novak. I think he's coming back this year. I think he's going to come back strong. And look, hey, if Nadal and Federer can do it, Novak can do it. So I'm going to go with Novak. I think he can get right back on top of his game. And then again, I already mentioned Dimitrov for winning his first Grand Slam. But what do you think about Novak? Because Novak is definitely, you would think, chomping at the bit to have a big season, big comeback.
Well, as I mentioned in the beginning of the program, I think Novak will be the player of the year next year. And, of course, that means he's going to have to probably beat Roger and Rafa. It's been the Roger and Rafa show this year. They silenced Novak. They put him out, I think, put his ego out of shape. But I think that Novak has done all the right things in this offseason. Andre Agassi has been there. He has Stepanek is there. Radek Stepanek is now going to be his day-to-day coach. He's done the physical. He's done the training. And I think he's had to reset his body, reset mentally. He had a baby daughter, so now they're 2 young children. And he seems to have enough of the pieces in place that he can now focus on the tennis on court. He seems to put out the fires, put out all the issues on and off court to a degree where now he really can focus on trying to do his best. Because you know what, you're looking at the last chapter for a lot of these guys. When you get to about 30, they really have to seize the moment because they're not going to be around forever. I think that Andy Murray is another story, though. I think that it's very tough, Greg, when you see 5 of your top 10 guys not in the top 10 to say, well, I think they'll make a comeback into the top 10 because they've been there for so long.
Sure.
Stan Wawrinka is another one. He's coachless. Magnus Norman left. He was shocked. He said he considered quitting the game middle through of these 2 surgeries he had on his knee. He got, felt that it was a really tough proposition to try and come back. But, he's got Pierre Pagnini with him, and I think he's gotten him to very, very good shape. I think Stan is a veteran. He loves the aura of being out on the big courts, the big show courts, the big moments, the Grand Slams. I think that's something he feeds off of. And so I think we're going to see him back. And if I had to pick someone who is a surprise contender for a Grand Slam again, because he has 3, it would be Stan Wawrinka.
All right. All right. So we both agreed as far as player of the year candidates, Pliskova and also Novak. So we'll see whether or not we can.
I think the dark horse in there is Del Potro. He's number 11 in the world. Now, of course, these rankings are a little bit, to me, misleading because, again, we have Novak is at 12. Andy's at, I think, 19. You have Kei Nishikori, Milos Raonic, all outside, the top 20. So you have a lot of names who are usually in the top 10, and that will probably, be corrected in the first 3 months of the year. But I think Del Potro at number 11 will crack the top 10 for the first time, and I think he will be a contender for that top 5 because now he's healthy. He says he's healthy. He says that he's finally had a full year after the injury layoff to really get his body back into shape. And I think once you get that muscle memory back, then that's where Del Potro will be dangerous.
Yeah, because as far as one of the other predictions, which player is the best chance to end up in the top 5 after ending last season outside the top 10, of course, Dimitrov did it last year. He was 17th, finishing 3rd. Venus on the women's side, 17th, finished 5th. On the men's side, because of the players that we didn't expect to knock out of the top 5, which included Novak, Murray, and Nishikori and Raonic, that gives us a whole bunch of players. And you got Kyrgios at 21st. He's in the running. And then you just mentioned Del Potro at 11th. So since you like Novak, let's get Novak out of the way. Would Del Potro be, if you had to pick one player that is outside the top 10, not named Novak Djokovic, that'll finish in the top 5, would it be Del Potro?
Yeah, I think Del Potro does because he's got the mental, he's got the discipline, he has the experience, he loves the big points, he's an incredible competitor. We've seen that at all the Grand Slams. He's had some of the biggest wins in the last 2 years, including at the Olympics. So he knows how to beat the top stars as well as hold off the younger ones.
Okay.
He can beat a Jack Sock, he can beat a Kyrgios because he's that type of competitor. But yes, he has to be healthy, and his age with all his wrist surgeries, that's a big if. But he says he's healthy. He says he's ready to go for the season. So with that type of outlook, I don't think you can ever count him out. I think that Kei Nishikori, he had a much more serious wrist injury than we expected.
True.
Andy Murray is not really showing a lot of signs of recovery. He's now looking at probably minimizing his schedule, trying to play as much as he can at the end tail of his career. But he still seems to be having some physical question marks. So, yes, I do think we're looking at Novak as the prime contender at number 12 in the world right now to come back. And as you mentioned, perhaps be our Player of the Year from 2018.
All right, on the women's side, we also have some interesting candidates outside the top 10. Mladenovic, you've already mentioned. She's 11th. Sloane, 13th. Keys, 19th. Of course, Serena, 22nd. Kvitova, 29th. Sharapova, 59th. So that's a good list right there. And I don't know if you've got any others. So if you had to pick just one of those players to finish in the top 5, who would it be?
Well, Serena comes back, I think she's going to play a very sparse schedule. So mathematically, I think it will be tough. However, when we see Muguruza jump into the top 5 with one Wimbledon victory, it's possible. I don't know if Serena's going to play the Australian at this stage. I think that she has nothing to lose. I think she can go out there because no one's expecting much. This is only 4 months after her pregnancy. We forget. When they say, oh, yeah, there have been other mothers before Serena who've done this and come back, but they were younger. Kim Clijsters, Yvonne Goolagong-Cawley, all in the mid-20s when they had their first child and were able to come back and win Grand Slam titles. And but Serena at 36 years of age, it's a different storyline there. And it's tougher physically and tougher mentally. And once you've been out for a year and the muscle memory is a little bit gone and you don't have that same type of discipline to get out there and do the day in, day out, which, Greg, I don't think anyone can really understand what that is for a top professional player, a superstar like Serena. I think it's tough to get back into that mode again. And it's going to take probably longer than 4 months. I mean, it took Kim Clijsters almost 2 years before she won her first Grand Slam after having Jada. Yvonne Goolagong-Cawley, her first child, 1977, and won Wimbledon in 1980. So you can see that these women, yes, they were able to do it, but it took time. And when you're looking at the standard of Serena, which is not just showing up and getting through the first week, she wants to win the title. And if she's going to play, that has to be with the ambition that she can win the title. If she can't win the title and she doesn't feel that she can win the title, she's not going to go. And so, yes, to that degree, it's a different set of criteria that goes into play into the decision to go to these tournaments like the Australian for her. Let's face it, she wasn't in shape last year when she arrived in Auckland, and she played horrendously. She lost to Madison Brangle in a windy day in Auckland, and she got to Melbourne, and within 10 days, she played her way into shape well enough so that she could then play her way into the draw and win it, 8 weeks pregnant. Now, of course, I think she's the type of player that gets out of shape quickly and gets into shape quickly. So if she, really started training hard and did all the right things and had no distractions, yes, she could do it. But the truth is, reality sets in, and she's got a baby, and she's got a whole lot of other things. She's making all these promotional appearances, Greg. I think that's another thing we have to factor in when we look at Maria, when we look at Serena, and some of these former number ones. You know, when you do all this type of off-court stuff, and Roger's doing quite a bit himself, it does take something out of you.
Sure.
Even to do a one corporate appearance, Greg, that you lose the day before, you lose the day you do it, and you lose the next day. So you lose almost half a week for one appearance in your training schedule. So it's very difficult to do both and find the balance. And I think that's why we haven't seen the results from Maria that we were expecting this year, and why I think it will continue to impact these top stars.
All right. Well, look, I mean, I think that when you're looking at, I know the next prediction we want to talk about is which player will be the most improved. The reason I'm going to go with Sharapova is because she was so far down at 59th that I'm not thinking that she's going to go into the top 5, which was the previous prediction as far as who's outside the top 10. So I'm not going to put Maria there, but I think that I'm expecting her to get somewhere inside maybe the top 20, top 15. Maybe she can crack the top 10. But yeah, I don't think that. I think there's so many other good players now that are there.
Well, to me, the big question mark is Belinda Bencic. She's won 15 matches in a row, Greg. She, in the last couple of months, has gotten her ranking. She's gone from 420. Of course, she was the one of the youngest players to ever break into the top 10, the youngest since Wozniacki when she broke in, went to number 7 in the world. And then, she was a sophomore on tour. She got caught up in the glamour, all the partying, and, best friends with Kiki Milanovic, and they all enjoyed all the, different things they were able to do off court. And she got out of shape, was not training properly, and then, of course, the injuries came in. It ended up with wrist surgery, which kept her out half of this year. But she's come back with a vengeance. She's come back with a focus now. She has told her father that she's going to find a different coach, so she's had to sort out the team a little bit. Dad's no longer traveling with her. She's got a new coach, and she seems very happy with the situation. She seems to have a better balance as well, and I think she is someone we're going to have to look at to return to the top 10. She's got the mind. She's got the racket skills, and I think if she's in condition and moves well, she's certainly someone who knows how to beat the top players. And with, of course, Hingis and Roger Federer as her compatriots, you can't ask for better examples than them as she moves through, and was still a very young girl.
As far as the men, most improved, I tell you what, I don't think this is going too far out when you take a look at the rankings. Shapovalov is sitting there at 51st, so to think that he won't finish in the top 20 might be a surprise. I think a lot of people are expecting some big things from him. And I also expect, because he's way down at 79th, that Frances Tiafoe is going to be able to improve that ranking and cut it in half.
A lot of people like Tiafoe because he's so explosive, so athletic, so fast, and he wants it so much. He's got that real great dynamic, that optimism and that positive attitude that everyone loves. And he's been training at the USTA Center in Orlando. He's been hanging out with Madison Keys, and people like coaches like Lindsay Davenport have spoken very highly of what they feel his prospects are for 2018 as well. I think he's very explosive. I think he's an exciting personality and player to watch. So I give him a lot. But I guess Shapovalov is another 151. He's not a big guy, but he's got big weapons. He's got big game for a little guy. And I agree. I think he's so exciting to watch. I think we have to also put Jack Sock in there. He's been a perennial top 20. Now he's in the top 10. Showed the spurts of what we really, at the end of the year, at the ATP final, and Bercy as well, that we have been expecting and hoping from him. And to me, he's someone who I think finally has that taste of what it takes to win a Grand Slam, to get into the top 10, and to want more. And for him, it's about scheduling. It's about really managing your schedule, managing yourself, focusing, training hard, all the same things we've talked about with Dimitrov and Kyrgios and Zverev. A lot of the same ingredients. But to me, those are the players, those are the guys we should look for that are not in the top 5 right now, or not won a Grand Slam.
All right, which players have the best chance to drop out of the top 10 after ending last season inside the top 5? And of course, you had Djokovic.
Well, I think that, as we said, there's a juxtaposition right now at the men's rankings with Novak and Andy and the host and Stan out. I think Stan actually is at number 9, but
well, how about the old guys? How about the old guys, Nadal and Federer? Come on, do you think they're really going to still hang in there this year? You think
I
so?
think they'll definitely be in the top 10. Oh, sure.
Okay.
I don't know whether they're going to be winning Grand Slam titles as easily as they did this year. Let's face it, it was a walkthrough for Roger at Wimbledon. Rafa had no trouble at the French or really the U.S. Open, and they battled it out the Australian. No, I think there's going to be far more depth. I think these first rounders, the first week of all these Grand Slams are going to be incredibly exciting because you're going to have all these, these draws where these guys are going to be meeting in earlier rounds. So I do think that it will sort itself out very quickly, and I've no doubt that Roger and Rafa, because they're standard, Greg, it's the standard of excellence every time they walk out into court, and that's what separates them from the rest. And when you look at, we talked about this with the players, it's Madison Keys, these 20-something-year-olds. Muguruza's so young, 23, 24-year-old gals on the tour, really wanting that. But when you look at the consistency, that is what you want. You want the consistency, you want that standard of excellence every time you walk out. Chris Evert still commands the leaderboard for 34 appearances in a Grand Slam final. That's how consistent she was. That's why she was such a great champion, because every time she walked out there, she gave 150. And that's what we want to see from Stock and Keys and Muguruza and all these, and Halep as well, is that when they walk out there, they give 100%. And that's where we'll see a real changing of the guard.
Yeah, you see, when I look at that particular question, I'm thinking of the same way that dropped out the men last year, is if it's not Nadal and Federer, if they're not in the top 10, it's going to be because of not playing, they're getting older, there's an injury here or there, they miss a month or two. Because, yes, if they're out on the court, I mean, they're just too good right now, even at this stage of their careers, to drop very far. And on the women's side, I would say the same thing for Venus. Because she was our player of the year last year. But can she repeat that? Can she stick? Because, I don't know, it's going to be tough for her to stick.
I don't think she needs to. I think whatever Venus does is great. She's proved herself. To me, I also think we have to look in terms of a little bit of a bigger picture and player of the year. I think the Miami Open may be the player of the year. The Miami Open now, just today, Greg, received approval from the commission to move to the site, the Dolphin Stadium in Miami from Key Biscayne. There was a little bit of brouhaha, a hiccup in some sort of the finances that had to be worked out, but they did. It was approved. The Miami Open now will move to the Dolphin Stadium with Stephen Ross and his contingent there, and IMG, of course. And so I think that may be a player of the year for us, the tournament that really needs to come back, that, really has kind of sunk to a, not great level. And as we've seen, of course, Larry Ellison and Indian Wells become the standard. It's the Miami Open I think will have the biggest comeback of the year next year for the tournaments. And look, I think that a lot also we can say about is the clothing. We saw Serena just tweet out a picture of her golden Nike tennis shoes. And this is going to set, I think, a new standard for Nike next year. I think Boast. Let's look out for Boast. They're apparently making a comeback. They really have launched a campaign. It was in Vogue magazine. So I think we're going to see a lot more contenders on all fronts in the game.
All right. Well, my player comeback is going to be Kvitova. I'm going to say that she can go out there.
Well, I think that's a very sentimental choice, and I think a lot of people will like that.
What do you think that is it all just going to be about her staying healthy?
I think Petra just said, look, she's got a new hand now after that horrible, vicious attack that left her left hand. She's left-handed. That cut so severely that she's had to learn to quote unquote love her new hand. And it's not the same. She'll continue to rehab it, continue to try and get some feeling and strength back in it. Obviously, she can play well. We saw that at the U.S. Open when she beat Muguruza and had the great match with Venus. She's a champion. She's won Grand Slam titles. But I think it's going to be tough for her because, again, it's consistency, Greg. We know in spurts she can be incredible, but she does depend on that feel. She's one of the best ball strikers in the women's game. And when she's on, with that serve and that forehand, there's no one better. But I think she has to stay in shape. She's got to do with the conditioning, and it's got to be a day-in, day-out process, which, we'll have to see.
All right. Now, 2 more to go. Which player will win Breakthrough Player of the Year? Who's never had a major impact before? And then also, which player has the best chance to pull off a long shot win in a Grand Slam? Of course, never winning a slam before, and a player that really would be considered a long shot that nobody would pick. And when we're throwing in a combination of these two final predictions, I'm going to throw in on the women's side a couple of players. My top player, I talked about her last year, and you know what? I think maybe this could be a big year for her. I'm expecting even some sort of an impact for Jennifer Brady.
Yeah. Well, Jennifer is a talented American. She took a set off of Sharapova in Stanford this year. I'm going to go with Svitolina. I think that Svitolina is due. She showed some composure at the finals after losing those first two matches to come back and beat Halep. She's not afraid to play the top players. In fact, she wants it. She feels she belongs. And she's due to win a Grand Slam. She's due to have a breakthrough. She's been in the top now for so long that, to me, it's really about her fitness. It's about her belief. I think it's all coming together for her. So I think that Svitolina is someone who is very quiet. She runs under the radar, but she plays more tournaments than anyone. She had more titles than anyone, so she knows how to win. And to me, that will translate in 2018 into some sort of major victory for her. As far as the men are concerned, I think we've talked about it. I think we're looking at Dimitrov, Sasha Zverev, and Jack Sock, to me, are the three top contenders to vie for a big breakthrough.
All right, and some other long shots I like besides Jennifer Brady. Maybe this is the year that Kristina Pliskova also, because we got to remember she's 2010 Wimbledon Junior title champ. She was the twin that was supposed to be the top player, so maybe she can have a big year. Andrei Rublev is another player that has a lot of talent on the men's side. So those are some.
And Chung as well, and as you said, Shapovalov, TFO, Jared Donaldson, and 54. I also think we have to mention Ostapenko. She won her first French Open title this year. And let me tell you, there's no one who's enjoyed their off-season more than Ostapenko. She's been everywhere. She's been taking every dollar she's been given. She's going to the Exos, and she's going to be in Thailand, and has a stamp in her honor in her country, and she's been given awards. I just watched a tape last night. She was in a ballroom dancing competition, and boy, if you can pick any one young lady on the women's tour who has this sort of regal poise to her and this feeling of just belonging, it's Ostapenko. There's something, that X factor in her that just gives you that feeling that she's going to do something big again. And she has such an incredible personality, and the way she holds herself and carries those shoulders really where all that power comes from on her ground strokes. She says her serve's great. It's not. And that's what she has to do. She's got to improve it. She's hired David Taylor, a new coach. He's worked with Osaka. He's very experienced, but she's only hired him, Greg, for 18 weeks. And I love this message. You always can add weeks on, but why go and do a pay-for-play deal and have to end up with a coach in a situation that's not great if it doesn't work? So she's hired David Taylor for 18 weeks. Her mother's already involved, as we know, and they're going to see how it works. And I think that she's a tough person to coach, a tough personality. She's very opinionated, very headstrong, very stubborn. And so it'll be interesting to see how he does with her, because we've had so many different coaching, and we should name them, Greg. We have Bekic hired Kerber's old coach, Torben Peltz. Kerber hired Konta's old coach, Wim Fissette. Konta hired Sharapova's old coach, Michael Joyce. And then we have, of course, Ostapenko with David Taylor, Pliskova with Thomas Krupa. And Osaka now has hired Sasha Beijing, who ended it with Wozniacki. So he's now going to be a first-time head coach with Osaka. And Wozniacki will go coach less because, quite frankly, she's engaged. She's probably a veteran. She probably thinks she's a better coach than any of them. She doesn't need anyone. So it's interesting how, as we said, there's always this web of coaching changes. And, of course, who did Strikova ended up with after Pliskova took her coach? And she ended up with Pliskova's old coach, David Kotba. So it all comes back, Greg.
All right. Well, there's
a test on that at the end of the show.
Yeah. Well, the end of the show is now. So I already failed. But that's okay, because that just shows you how much stuff we have to get everybody ready for 2018.
Oh, we have to mention, though, of course, the big news of the day. When you asked me about comebacks and first time that Marion Bartoli has announced today that she is coming back, and she's going to play in the Miami Open. And she's excited, of course, a former Wimbledon champion. She retired almost immediately after winning that. She played Cincinnati, lost to Halep, and then retired a month later. But she has announced she's coming back, and she's had a very interesting journey, Greg, and we'll probably end up talking about it more. She last year was very ill, ended up in what she said was a quote-unquote clinic for some sort of virus where she lost enormous amounts of weight. And now, obviously, is coming back and has a lot to do with the fitness, a lot of training to do, still to do, but she has announced that she will return in March.
All right, sounds good. So that'll wrap it up for our predictions. We'll make sure every time one of our predictions comes, is looking pretty good for the season, that we'll reference it so everybody can know how smart we are.
It's quite a thing, though, because I'm going to mention one other thing that we're going to throw out there. We haven't talked about Roger a lot in this program. But apparently yesterday, his coach, Ivan Lubicic, has announced that he is now going to be managing Borna Coric in a management company, SAM. So he's going to have double duty next year, coaching Roger and managing a new title to his resume, Coric. So I really don't know how that's going to factor into the Roger camp. Of course, Roger has other people on his team. He also works with Piero Paganini and his fitness and so forth. But I think that this is a twist in the picture because, of course, Roger has Team 8, which also manages players. So it would be interesting why Ivan Lubicic did not go with Team 8 and instead with SAM. But that's something that will also unravel in 2018 and to see if it really impacts Roger Federer at all.
All right, sounds good, Andrea. Next week, we will preview the 2018 season's first week. So they're in Australia. A few more weeks to go after that before the Australian Open. So we're going to gear up for our first preview of activity on the court on our next show. Andrea, I look forward to doing that. Thanks for 2017's coverage, and we'll see you again in about another week.
Terrific. I look forward to it.
Likewise. So I want to thank everybody also for listening, and we will be back again before the end of the year to preview the first event of 2018 right here on Prime Sports Tennis. Want to wish everybody a Merry Christmas. And also just enjoy the holidays, everybody. And we'll see you again next time here on Prime Sports Tennis with Andrea Leand on the Prime Sports Radio Network.